you're on quite a few committees and AGMs and lots of meetings. It seems to me your job is almost as well as managing the grounds, it's a liaison with the other departments and the other areas of the club. So you must have a really good team around you that you rely on. I
do, yes.
Yeah.
My job is it doesn't start at 9 and finish at 5. It'll go on into the evening as well, because a lot of our members and the board members and the committee members are professionals, so they will devote their time to actually run their club. This is their facility, and we do the same. And because of that, as you say, I've got a very good team around me. The heads of department, Ashley Allpress for the golf, Chris Hughes for tennis and grounds, and Steve Hutchins who runs the gardens. These guys with a wealth of knowledge, and I couldn't do it without them.
And you've got a substantial team, I think, in terms of many other facilities. Is it, how many people you got in your staff?
At the moment we've got 21.
Okay, and are they, do you man up in the peak seasons, or do you have it constant?
No, we almost keep a constant level throughout the year.
Okay, and there's a broad mix of skills and age ranges in there, I would assume.
Exactly.
One of the things I was going to ask you is, recruitment and attracting people into the industry, I think, is an industry-wide problem. Do you have that issue here at the Roehampton, or is it that kind of place that attracts people? I've
seen a trend over the last 10, 15 years that where you would advertise and get a wrath of CVs come through, that has actually dwindled in the last 5 years, 10 years possibly. I think it's one of the situations that we're going through a roller coaster trend that as course managers are retiring, people actually moving through the ranks, people actually are probably more static in their job as well. I don't think there's the great movement that we see, that people are actually jumping around more and more at the moment. Maybe the political situation as well, what's happening is something which is having an effect. And maybe it's because education as well is more difficult to do in terms of full-time education, and it's probably not seen as a desirable career to actually enter. I think that's something that we've got to work on as an industry.
Got any suggestions on how that could change?
I think, again, to actually, for the younger generation, show that you can actually start at a starting point on your career, and there's a development. As I've done, you can actually develop from working on the tools to actually into management, and you can take that as fast as or as slow as steps as you wish. But I think there is and there should be a career progression.
But I think people externally from the industry don't view it as a career.
No, I think as agriculture has shown in the past, that people actually think farming is all about the muck and magic, and that there is nothing beyond that. Whereas today we're working with technology that even when I started was not there, was not in place. And everything from analysis of what is happening in the ground to how the weather will actually change in the future is part of our bearing and what we do. But also the changing state of what tools you have is dramatically changing, and specifically in terms of the chemical ranges that we have, in terms of what's available and what we need to look at in the future in terms of resolving pest and disease issues for now and in 10 years' time.
With the variety of different surfaces that you have here in terms of your turf care regimes, what are the biggest challenges that you're facing?
I think it really is that changing state of having less and less, shall we call them, chemical solutions to problems, whether it's a pesticide, a herbicide. It's a changing state, and as that narrows down, you've got to be more inventive. You've actually got to rely more on cultural practices and less on the chemical technology that we've had in the past.
Is there any particular approaches that you've taken that you've seen success from that have led you away from the chemical approach?
Growth days, looking at growth day activities on how that affects fungicide usage, and predicting how mycelium and within the plant will actually be attacked by mycelium. Worm casts, again, we're an old established course on a loam soil. How we manage casting worms. Now we do not have any chemical actual product that can actually reduce the amount of castings you can have, so you've got to rely on a lot more cultural practices on trying to disperse casting and deter worms from the area. We do a lot of top dressing here, sand top dressing, etc., to actually trying to modify the medium within the fairways and tees, so that we actually create a better surface which it deters worms away from them as well.
And are these things that you're researching and finding yourselves, or are you working with particular suppliers or organisations to help with that?
I think generally within the industry we have a lot of contacts. You work together with other clubs. We share and impart information all the time. So yes, you do have visits from a lot of people within the industry and suppliers, but it's something that common knowledge which is coming together all the time as well.
As well as those approaches, you've got your people, you've got your facilities here that are, among the best. You've got high demands on you, you get a decent budget. Seems to have been quite a big investment recently. Looking around your shed, there's quite a lot of shiny red stuff down there. How do you go about deciding what kit you're going to use?
We open to a competitive tendering situation. We try and look at the bidding process fairly, but the demands of the club is such that we go for the quality which will actually give us the results that we want and what the members desire. So we do an analysis, we do a tender package, but it's also the aftercare that we're after. Okay. In terms of what whether it's red, orange or green, what they can actually bring to us. And we worked with Toro for a number of years. They support us in terms of tournament support. They support our junior golfers foundation that we have with bringing people into the game, and also training our staff. They do a lot of off-site training to assist us. So it is it's just not a business deal.
Okay.
It's actually a synergy between us and Resync and Toro, and we work together to actually produce the best facilities we can.
Okay. So you've got a good relationship there, and you obviously like the equipment.
Definitely.
But you're not exclusively Toro. You can buy the right piece of kit for the job.
Yeah, and that's because having those separate elements, my head groundsman might say I need that specific tool to do the job, and that's the one that we really wish we to have on site, and I'll bargain for that and put it in the bid, because I've got to back up my team and make sure that they have the tools to do the job.
So I'm sure, like many clubs, your members and indeed the management team here are pretty demanding and expect possibly sometimes unreasonable levels of excellence, but you're doing your best to deliver that. You made a big investment there in kit. What's the next big investment that you want to make?
As I said earlier, the future proofing of the club, to look towards tomorrow. We just invested in a borehole facility which will actually bring water into the club that we hadn't had before, and offset what we use from Thames water and town water facilities. So in terms of drought situations, we'll actually have ample supply if that is going to affect us in the future with climate change. But also making sure that all the facilities that we have around the club are in a state that by the time I leave, retire, whatever happens, the person who comes in after me will actually have the facilities around them to actually work the club and have everything in place for the future too.
So that's how you want to leave your mark and put your stamp and your legacy. Yeah?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Continuing on the theme of investment, from conversation we've been having off camera, seems to be quite a big investment in the people here and training and developing them. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, it's a club that will have members of the team which have been here, say, for anything from 3 months to 40 years, and that is a situation that we actually encourage, that we want people to actually come and work for us who will actually bring skills in, but then we will actually train additionally. And it's a process which is put in place from the chief executive, that training is a key component of you being here as an employee and as part of the team. We will actually send people on formal qualifications, but then as well as that, I'll send people away to work at tournaments across the world. We worked in with Rio during the Olympics.
Okay, with Neil out there.
Several years ago. We sent people to Muirfield in Ohio for the Memorial Tournament, and Turkey to the Turkish Open as well. And that's something which will continue in the future. That a little bit of a break away from here. But what we'll expect is that when they come back, they'll actually bring back at least one key issue which they felt we could benefit from too, and bring that and introduce that into our ethos as well, how we maintain the
So it's not just educating them, it's educating the team and the club and everybody. That's brilliant, that really is. Sticking with investment, throughout your career, you'll have bought various bits of kit, invested in different programs and different training schemes, etc. For you, what's been the best investment you've made as a professional?
Investment in my own education, I would say.
Okay.
I came in this wide eyes open, in that if I wanted to go ahead and go forward with my career, I had to make that investment from the start, and it's something which I've continued to develop throughout my career, is that to keep ahead, you've got to reanalyze what you know and never stop learning. And I think that was reinforced by a mentor I had many years ago in Jim Thorne of the All England Club.
Yeah.
In that he blatantly said to me, never stop learning. And he was at the end of his career when I had the fortunate situation to work with him. And yet he was saying, I'm still learning and I'm still trying to progress the key skills that I have, and be a person who's innovative in their approach to turf.
How do you actually do that though? I mean, obviously we share a lot of information in this industry, and that is something that I love to bits about it. What other mechanisms do you use to make sure you're keeping ahead of the game?
Obviously attending the various key conferences in the UK and in the USA as well, and talking to as many people as possible in not just my own realm of golf or grounds, but if there's somebody who's working in, say, parks departments or in another facility around the world, is you can gain so much information from them, and not just that, but understand their stresses and what they have to do in their work life to keep the facility open and managing a facility, but also keep yourself in check as well.
If you had to sum up your philosophy as a turf care professional, what would it be?
I think as a manager, you rely very heavily on your staff and what they bring to you and the facility you're working for, and you've really got to support your staff in terms of giving them the best tools to do the job, but then also don't be afraid to show where their weaknesses are, but in a positive way, that we're working together to actually make those stronger and to use education to your advantage. It's no use praising people all the time and then not balancing that by looking at weaknesses as well. It's something which Mark Newey, the chief executive, about 2 years ago, we went on a 360-degree training course in that we analysed ourselves, and we done a self-assessment, and then looking at the other team members towards what they felt were our strong points and what our negative points as well, and not be afraid to openly criticise, but in a way that is constructive.
We've spoken about the issues you face here at the Roehampton. As an industry, what do you think are the key issues that are coming up over the next few years?
Interesting one. I think again it's that changing status of resources, in that what do we have for the future, in terms of the fertilizer and the other technologies that will help us. There's many benefits in that we have many tools now to plan and track what we're doing, and to really capture data that are we on track to what we want to achieve. But with climate change as it is, since I've been here, even at this club, we've never had 2 years which are exactly the same. No. The changing and rolling pattern of the weather at the moment is really, you've got to be adaptable to change your what you're doing structurally on a day-to-day basis, but be able to communicate that to your client, to your membership, and those who use the facilities, so they can understand and really put in place that you can't do A before you do B, because the weather's have an effect on that. So it's that part of that communication which is key. I find it's absolutely key.
You've had a long career to date. It's by no means over, I know. But do you think it's a better industry to work in now than it was when you first got into it?
I think it's just as exciting as when I started. It's certainly not easier. I think those challenges are something which are only going to get more difficult as we progress into the 2020s and beyond. But I think then the advantages of technology will become apparent too. I do wish we had a more focused body that would work towards the whole industry, and that's being a manager that works on grounds as well as golf. Okay. If we had a stronger advocacy towards a leading body that would work with government and as happens in other countries, then that would actually assist us more.